Good evening, everybody. You're busy eating your starters, I imagine, still, but we have our second interview of the evening. My name is Josh Fasana. I'm a senior policy reporter in the Politico newsroom, and I also was convener-in-chief of the Politico 28 list for this year. I'm delighted to be joined right now by Ylva Johansson, EU Commissioner for Home Affairs. Thank you for joining us this evening for a chat before the main course. So, obviously, you've spent a lot of time over recent weeks visiting the EU's external borders. You've worked very, very closely on the situation in terms of the temporary guidelines for countries dealing with a sudden influx of 3.5 million refugees fleeing the conflict, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I'm sure many other people have been very surprised about the generosity and the coordination that EU countries have shown so far. And my question for you, Commissioner, given that we live in quite a cynical world now, is how long until that runs out and people start to ask questions about sustainability?
That depends on us. We have seen an unprecedented solidarity from EU citizens, from local governments, from volunteers, from national governments, from NGOs. And just to give you some perspective, I was responsible in Sweden in 2015, where we had the last migration crisis. And to be very honest with you, I was so disappointed on the European Union. We felt so alone. And you know, the aftermath of the 2015 migration crisis was a big division, blocking situation, where migration almost become toxic in the European Union. And I promised myself back in 2015-16 that if that ever happens again, and if I can do anything to change it, I will do. So now I think we are dealing with it in a much, much better way than we did back then. Even though we are taking, 3.4 million refugees. It's almost in 4 weeks. It's almost double what we had in 2 years. In 2015-16 for the whole European Union. So I think the unity between member states and also to supporting the citizens on the ground and to show people, yes, this is a really, really difficult situation we are in, but we can manage if we do it together. I think this is the key. So of course it's going to be a challenge, but we can manage, but it depends on us. Commission and member states.
Yeah, and just talking about what happened in 2015, and as you say, the coordination now has been very active, but the Temporary Protection Directive was not activated in 2015 when there was the Syria conflict. It's before your time as Commissioner, but why is that the case? Is there a big difference between refugees fleeing a conflict in Ukraine and refugees fleeing a conflict in the Middle East?
No, I think really it was a failure of the European Union at that time in 2015. So that was really bad, and I promised myself this would not happen again when I'm responsible. So really, when this started to happen, we started to work on this temporary protection directive. I reached out to member states. This started on a Thursday morning. You remember, we have an extraordinary council on Sunday. And then I reached out to the member states in advance, asking them, can we activate the temporary protection directive? They were a bit hesitating. But I proposed it on the Sunday meeting, and they were, a bit. And then I think I started to travel to the member states most affected, to go to the border areas, of course to see by myself, listen to people, but also to have direct dialogue with the responsible ministers on this temporary protection directive. And then we met on Thursday again, 1 week after the war started. And when we started in the morning, it was not clear that we could get an agreement. But we worked on it on the whole day. And actually, at the end of the council, we managed to have unanimous decision on activating temporary. So that is what I'm saying, is that political will is important here. And you have to really understand that how we work together, how we deal with each other, how we listen to each other, now we manage to get together to get decision. This really makes a difference.
And when we're talking specifically here, we're talking about EU ministers agreeing that people coming should be allowed the right to live. It makes things a hell of a lot easier when you're having to shuttle hundreds of thousands of people across the border. We didn't expect there to be a deal that Thursday, right? There was some uncertainty whether or not ministers would agree. What was it that swung that in the room at the time?
I think it was there was a good atmosphere that Thursday in the Council of Ministers of Interior that usually be quite diverging on migration. And this has also been my task since I took office, really to try to make migration an ordinary, boring EU policy area, where sometimes we disagree, as we do in many other areas as well, but it's not toxic. It's not for drama queens. It's something, yeah, we might disagree, but let's sit down and negotiate, and we come out with something that maybe is not perfect, but it's much better than we started. And I think this atmosphere has really been part of the Council, and I think that's part of the answer to your question.
Yeah, and I mean, you spent a lot of the last few weeks traveling to the EU's external borders. You were in Estonia just a few days ago. You were also on the Polish border with Ukraine, where I was too, passing out of Ukraine after the first week of the war. Also Slovakia, I think you were in Hungary also. What does this situation on the ground tell us about the EU's border policy? Because things are quite coordinated, actually. There's a support, humanitarian support has been deployed.
So the situation is much better than you can expect. Member states are doing great. I really praise Poland, Romania. I mean, Poland 2 million, Romania 700,000, Slovakia 300,000, Hungary 250,000, but also other members like that. The Czech Republic, more than 250,000 people, even if they're not a bordering country. They are doing great. The citizens are doing great, the NGOs, the local authorities, really. But having said that, there are also challenges.
Yeah.
So no criticism to how they are doing it, but so many people in so short time. I mean, take Poland, for example. In an ordinary year, Poland have 350,000 children born, something like that. Now they have 1 million children just arriving.
Yeah.
And they have to deal with it. Of course, it's a challenge. And unfortunately, we know that with all of this kind of situation, there are criminal individuals that take advantage of the situation. So I'm very worried about trafficking of people, vulnerable women, trafficking of children. We have very few reports formally yet, but we should not wait until we have the formal reports of trafficking, because we have so many informal reports of the huge risk, and also that Ukrainian women being sold on websites for prostitution and things like that is increasing. So this is really an area that we activated immediately, our network of anti-trafficking coordinators. So this is really what I'm worried. Vulnerable children, vulnerable women that might fall victims of trafficking or other kind of abuse in this situation.
And we spoke earlier that one of the issues within the Commission related to far more than just the Ukraine situation at the moment is that of online child sexual abuse legislation, which you're trying to push through. I understand this is a priority for you. We reported the other day that it was delayed again. It was going to land by the end of this month. Now it's going to be the end of April. Should we expect more delays? Why is there this delay? If this is such a priority issue for you, obviously this would help to safeguard children across Europe. What's the problem here?
Yeah, this is my highest priority, actually. And to be very honest, I think that we are failing today to protect children. The Council of Europe estimates 1 child out of 5 fall victim of child sexual abuse. There was a recent survey in Spain where they asked adults, were you a victim of child sexual abuse when you were a child? 2 out of 5 say that had this experience when they were children. We look into how young people are being contacted. There was a recent survey in Sweden. They asked girls between 10 and 13, have you been sent nude pictures of adults you don't know? And that is dick pics, you know, that been sent. 80% said yes, girls 10 to 13. And they also asked, have you been asked to send nude pictures of yourself for money or via a threat? 45% said yes. Girls tend to. So this is a reality for our children. We are failing to protect them. And I must say that we are, as a European Union, We are protecting girls and boys, children, less than, for example, in the US. We are protecting copyright rights better than we protect children today. And this is a huge failure, and I think I'm obliged as a politician to do something about it. So that's why I'm going to present my proposal. So it was planned for the 27th of April. Now it's going to be delayed until May, and that is actually due to the heavy workload that we are dealing with right now due to the crisis.
It's also slightly down to this fundamental issue with data privacy here, that when do you mandate, President, it's a voluntary system, but when do you start mandating that tech companies should review effectively every single message that's sent on their platform in advance to see if there's that kind of content out there?
That's going to be a fight.
Yeah.
That's going to be a fight. And I'm happy to take that fight, because I think it's necessary to take it. But that's not the reason for the delay. The reason for the delay is actually the workload that we are under right now. But there's going to be a huge fight on the definition of privacy. So it's privacy only for adults that would like to send pictures also of child sexual abuse, or it's privacy also for children that don't want to be contacted by adults for grooming, children who don't want to have their nude pictures or sexual abuse pictures, videos of their rapes being sent around on internet. I think this is really a question. You know, all our communication is being scanned today. Everything is being scanned. For malware, for spam, because we ask the companies to do that. Because if we use a service and it's being infected by spam or malware, we won't use that service anymore. So we're happy to have it all scanned for that one. But in my view, society is about not only protecting yourself, but also protecting vulnerable people, like children. And that's why I think that we should also scan for child sexual abuse material to protect these children, even if I'm not protected. Yes, that's true. But I think I'm obliged to protect others as well.
So it's very clear. I'm not sure really anybody would disagree with the sentiments of the point.
There are going to be people that will disagree with me.
Maybe some big tech companies, yeah. But the fact of the matter is that you've planned to propose this for a while. It's been delayed successive times already. Now we're talking about May. Can you promise us, and my colleagues who will be watching this and write about this on a weekly basis, that you're going to table this, deliver it by the summer?
No, I can't, because nobody could promise you that there won't be a war in Ukraine, for example. So things are changing, and that, of course, when I have to ask my service to work on other proposals that is really, really urgent, we can't say that 1 month or here or there will be the most important here. So I can't promise you, because we have to deal with crisis as well in DG Home.
I'm sure when this comes up, we'll talk to you again about this subject, and that's very clear, your position on it. Final question for you, before we get back to our main course, is a slightly contentious one. I know this is a difficult concept for a commissioner to engage in, because, of course, when you come to Brussels, you have to sign a contract saying you no longer represent national interests. However, the NATO membership of Sweden, also of Finland, but of Sweden specifically in your case, is a huge topic now. What's your opinion on this? Should Sweden join NATO?
Well, I was appointed Member of Parliament when I was 24. I was the youngest one ever in Sweden at that time. I was appointed minister when I was 30, and my twins were 4 months old. I've been in Swedish politics for a very, very, very long time. Many people think too long. And now I have left it. So it's for the Swedish politician to answer. But having said that, of course, what's happening now, and we see the whole security structure in our part of the world being changed to the worse. Yeah. So this, of course, for many countries, including Sweden, leads to a new analysis of the situation. And of course, that this analysis also includes whether to apply for membership in NATO or not. But this is for them to do the analysis, but of course it's a new situation. But also it's important to say that Sweden and Finland has a very, very close cooperation since a long time, and my guess is that this is gonna continue to be a very close link. So I should guess that Sweden and Finland would take a decision that is coordinated with each other.
So we don't get your personal opinion for us tonight, sadly, but one final question for you. What about just putting this to the people of Sweden in a referendum? Wouldn't that be a simple way to solve it?
I don't think actually that, this is really my opinion, that these issues of how to deal with severe security issues is not really ones for referendum. That will not be my primary choice, I should say. That I think that you really need to have a broad, if not consensus, at least a broad majority. You have to have a broad political debate among all stakeholders in society. Referendum is, I should not recommend that.
Okay, that's clear. We've got a very clear no on that front from you. Thank you very much for your time. We go back to the table. I should just remind everyone that we have another interview. We have a third interview coming up for you after the main course with Karen Donfried. She is, of course, the US Undersecretary of State for European Affairs, and she'll be tuning in via video link and speaking to my colleague Suzanne. So look forward to that. Thanks again. Enjoy your food. Thank you.